Greetings, dear listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Eternal Grinding, the official radio news show of Eternal Grind. Now, we need to start things off tonight with a big announcement. It seems that despite this being our 139th weekly episode, all previous episodes were heard only by one man, a schizophrenic homeless man by the name of William Berthold of Portland, Oregon, has been hearing our show in his head for the last, 2.5 years or so. It turns out he's not schizophrenic at all. Unfortunately, all attempts to free William of this maddening ability have failed, but we have figured out how to wire him into our equipment and use him as what appears to be an extremely powerful repeater antenna. So, silver linings all around. We got William a job, a home, and you, dear listeners, finally get to hear our wonderful program. And now, the news. The Council of Guild Officers, those hooded figures that flit madly around the edge of your peripheral vision, held a press conference yesterday. They growled, spat, and writhed as images filled journalists' heads telepathically. Joanna Simmons of the Nashville Gazette screamed for 3 solid minutes without breathing, before finally being able to write her article. Sadly, the screaming fit meant that once again her more mentally robust colleagues scooped her on the announcement. The message the council conveyed appears to be as follows. 3 weeks ago, the members of Eternal Grind died to Ursoc. The resulting psychic distress was so severe, a small tear formed briefly in the fabric of reality, and the Raiders' very beings split. While many of you remember fighting Odin recently, you also have a counterpart endlessly fighting and dying to Ursoc. We find this entertaining and are making no attempts to repair the damage. The council went on to explain that if you are experiencing feelings of emptiness or nightmares of Ursoc killing you, they are not nightmares. You are simply experiencing the torment of your alternate self. We here at Eternal Grind Radio reached out to a few guild members for comment. Shrike said, "Ha! Oh God," then stared wistfully into the middle distance for half an hour before finally walking away from intern Steve. Liz just smiled her broad, manic smile, her eyes betraying no emotion to speak of, and whispered, "Server mute." Rachel, the resident guild transgender Draenei, said while dancing on a mailbox in Dalaran, "They just give me gold! Can you believe it?" And now, traffic. The roads are clear today, causing havoc across Azeroth. The hopefully temporary, transparent quality of all roads and road signs has caused countless accidents, and many travelers are lost on what they are pretty sure was a road yesterday, but might just be leading them deeper into unfamiliar woods. So be careful, listeners. Maybe just stay in an inn tonight and hope that the roads and signs are all back in the morning. On a hopefully related note, Khadgar was seen by several people running around Dalaran muttering, "Shit, shit, shit, not again." That silly Khadgar. I bet one of his students accidentally teleported the roads to Outlands again. Khadgar is an amazing mage, but not always the best teacher. Just last week, a major backup occurred when one of his students accidentally polymorphed a caravan, leaving a confused and stubborn 9-foot-tall sheep standing just outside the Stormwind Gate. Listeners, we're getting some follow-up reports to our main story tonight. HK, Eternal Grind's guild manager, seems to be one of the hardest hit in what this station is now calling the Splitting. It appears that HK keeps saying dejectedly, Yeah, wipe it. This has had some unintended consequences. Guild members have reported that they have committed mass suicide in the Trial of Valor many times, despite all raiders being at full health and the bosses not even pulled yet. On a more positive note, Yule said, "The house is immaculate now. I thought for days he just wasn't happy with how I cleaned the bathroom or the kitchen." Similarly, several guild members say that their keyboards are extremely clean now. Meanwhile, in the deep dark recesses of the Warlock Order Hall, Noop has been found in a corner endlessly repeating, completely unhelpfully I might add, "We don't have the DPS for this." Kane and Abel report that they have been kicked from several pug groups, because they just can't stop themselves from asking people to link recount after this pull. Experts are unsure if that actually has anything to do with the splitting or not, as they were unable to control this impulse before either. Chopsky has been repeatedly saying "taunt," much to the delight of trade chat trolls. The Council of Guild Officers has fallen into an uncontrollable fit of what we think is laughter. We think it's laughing, but it's hard to tell, because it sounds to the average person like 20 trains screeching to a halt in a station, and it's caused people's ears to bleed in all major cities. We'll bring you further updates on this story as information becomes available. And now, shower thoughts with Chuck. The children of voice actors must get amazing bedtime stories. Thanks, Chuck. And now, a word from our sponsor.
You stand alone in a cold desert of despair. The sheer void of all emotion, all light, all warmth consumes you. You realize with a start that you've not breathed for a long time, that it felt strangely good. You wanted to continue feeling good. You want to stop the breathing hold. You do not wish to feel the pain of life surge back into your lungs, into your heart. You want to be a part of the void forever. It calls to you softly on the desert wind. You smile for the first time that you can remember, and decide to stay with the void. Home Depot, you can do it. You can help.
Good news, listeners. To the disappointment of the Council of Guild Officers, it appears that our alternate reality selves have beat Ursa. All members of Eternal Grind simultaneously and independently started cheering wherever they were in the world. They then fell into a fit of hysterical crying and hugged themselves as if hugging a long-lost friend. It has been reported that JD, who was at the time in the middle of Suramar City, asked a Nightborn a few times for a ring before walking away confused. Fallen, despite being very much alive, asked if she should release, to a flurry of "that's what she said" jokes. Gare and Dell thanked complete strangers for a good time and logged off despite it being the middle of the afternoon. Eloise asked what we would be doing next week, while across the world, Senth told a group he thought we should try pushing for heroic scenarios. Well, all's well that ends well, I suppose. Most guild members seem to be processing the confluence of two different sets of memories coming together quite well. All except Dak, who continues to insist to people that he needs a res and that he's sorry but he was confusing the markers. When asked for a comment, the only unaffected member of the guild, Sable, told intern Steve, "What? What's going on? What's wrong with them? And who the hell are you? What do you mean we have a radio show?" Classic Sable. We love your antics. Good night, dear listeners. And remember, to keep grinding. Don't stop. Never stop. Keep grinding for all eternity until the heat death of the universe makes all things one. I thought for days he just wasn't happy with how I was cleaning the bathroom or the kitchen. Similarly, several guild members say that their keyboards are extremely clean now. Meanwhile, in the deep... I hate you, cat. I hate you with all of my being.